So next year, 2025, will mark an important milestone in my life. I will have lived on the East Coast for exactly as long as I lived in the Midwest. Right? Now, despite my stubborn Midwestern pride, I guess I'm like almost a New Englander now. No, you're shaking your head. Give it 40 more years, right? And it is also true that there are things about New England that will never feel fully like home. Like how when I go to the ocean, I feel like I'm on vacation in some foreign exotic place. But give me a lake and some loons, and I am right at home. When I last went back to Minnesota in 2022 during my sabbatical, I felt tension just immediately leave my body as soon as I entered my childhood home. I feel like that has always been my experience going there since I have moved away. I would arrive and just suddenly be exhausted, as if months of being a little bit on edge were catching up with me. It's like something in my body knows that this is a place where I can let down my defenses, even if I haven't been there in years. Now, I lived in the same city, in the same house, from when I was born until I left home for college. Not everybody's story is like mine. There are so many people who live a much more nomadic life, going from home to home or not having a home at all for a period of time. There are also so many people for whom home is not a safe place, for whom coming home means that they have to raise their defenses, not lower them. Home can be very complicated. And yet there is in us this longing to find home, to find a place of belonging and safety, to feel that emotional sense of home within our bodies and our hearts. Whether or not we grow up with that strong sense of home, it is one of the spiritual tasks of adulthood to find home, to figure out where it is and who it is among that we feel that sense of safety and belonging. At our board meeting last Thursday night, Burns, our vice president and frequent summer service provider, shared as our chalice lighting a piece of a sermon that he had written for a summer service over 10 years ago. In it, he described home as a place where you have enough comfort and familiarity that you are able to do scary things. Did I get that right? It is a low-risk space to push outside your comfort zone. He shared about the ways in which UU congregations, his church home, had offered him the space to take risks and try new things. Now, I was deep in my sermon prep at that point, so I had spent a lot of the day on Thursday thinking about how it is that we define home and how it is that we find it. And this definitions that Burns offered felt just right. I almost just asked him if he could do a sermon. It is what makes the sense of finding home not just a sentimental thing that it would be nice to have, but actually, I would say, a spiritual necessity. Home is about comfort and belonging. It's about that feeling that you fit, that you found your place or your people. It's about being able to let down those defenses, to relax. But it's more than that, too. It is also about the feeling of being safe enough, comfortable enough to take those risks, to move out of our comfort zone. My kiddos absolutely love this children's book called Pouch. Does anyone know it, other than my mom? It is about a baby kangaroo and their mother. The baby kangaroo is coming out of the mother's pouch for the very first time ever. That's a pretty safe space, right? And first takes just one hop before coming across something scary and unknown. I think it's a butterfly. And yelling, "Pouch!" as they jump back into their mother's pouch. Now, when the baby kangaroo has had some safe time and is ready to come out again, they take 2 hops this time, then come across something else unknown and scary, I think it's a bird, and yell, "Pouch!" as they leap back into that pouch. You get the pattern. Each time the kangaroo jumps a little bit further, and finally the kangaroo takes 5 hops and runs into another baby kangaroo. They both simultaneously yell, "Couch!" and are about to hop back to their mothers when they realize that they both just said the same thing. So they turn back around saying, "Wait, you were scared of me?" And then, of course, they become the best of friends and go off on many adventures and have more courage in the world because they found another kangaroo. They found another being like them. So I think what my kids really love about this story is the yelling of the word pouch, which they think is totally hilarious. But what I like about it is that it so well describes that experience of venturing out into the world on your own, taking one leap, then retreating back to familiarity, then maybe 2, a little more each time, until you find another home base, another connection, another familiar space or face. We need that home base to come back to in order to take risks. We all need to practice that taking a few hops outside our comfort zone, and we also need that space of safety to come back to, the space of safety to hold the risk. Finding home, whatever that may look like for you, is not just about finding comfort and familiarity, but about feeling enough comfort and familiarity to be able to risk pushing outside your comfort zone. Now, some of us get that immediately in our lives. We have caretakers who love us and offer safety and comfort, who give us that home base from which to explore. Others of us find that safety and comfort elsewhere, from teachers or coaches, from church communities or deep friendships. But all of us have moments in our lives when we leave home in some way, and we end up needing to rediscover or recreate home, either as children or adults. Sometimes we have many of those moments throughout our lives. My friend and colleague shared with me this story about her first year at college in Boston. She had been a super active Unitarian Universalist youth, but had kind of thought she was leaving that behind when she went to college. Maybe she'd come back sometime in her 30s or when she had kids who started asking questions about God. But she really struggled those first couple of months away from her home. She felt unmoored in this new environment and was not having any luck finding her people, finding her place in this new world. She had lost her home base and wasn't sure how to find a new one. One Sunday morning, she was up early and no one else was because, well, it was college. With no one around and nothing to do, she decided to go to church, thinking, well, it'll be something to pass the time until everyone wakes up, and at least it'll feel a little bit familiar. It was more than familiar, she told me. It was like coming home. She walked in those doors and found her people, a young adult group who invited her to lunch that very day, a community that supported her when she took a risk and started a UU campus ministry back at her college, and people like me who became lasting friends. She walked in those doors and basically never looked back. She knew that these were her people and that this was her home. I love this story because it is exactly what I hope we can be as a faith and as a church community. I hope that people can find here a home base of sorts, a place of comfort and safety, a place that allows us to be brave and take risks. When we have left behind other homes, other faith communities, when we're seeking that sense of belonging, I hope this community can be a landing spot. I hope that coming here can have that sense of homecoming, that we can be a home that is always welcoming more people in. When we wrote on the walls in our last service in the sanctuary back in July, I was moved by how many people named that space as a home. There was this blob on the wall that hadn't been painted that was in the shape of a house. Someone outlined it, added windows and a door, and wrote home. Others wrote spiritual home, my second home for 81 years. Home, music, love, second home, and finding home, which just happens to be the title of this sermon. These were all responses to the prompt, what are you grateful for about this space? Now, they were technically about the building, right? About that physical place and the sense of home that folks have found within it. But I happen to think that it is not as simple as that, and that those words on the walls were not just about the place, but also the community that dwelled within it. The community that dwells here, right now. As our words for reflection pointed out, even when our emotions are all tied up in a place, they are about so much more than that place. It is the space and the people and the memories and the stories all tied up together. And so, even as we are in our church to go era, I hope you can find home here, wherever we gather. Sometimes when we leave home, there are ways that we carry a piece of home with us, a reminder of the comfort and familiarity, giving us that courage, perhaps, to take risks even outside the safety of home. As I wrapped up our chalice for our first Sunday out of the building this summer, I was reminded of the last time this chalice ventured out of our building. It was March 2020. And we had just had our very first online service. I decided to go back to the church to grab a few things to make working from home and doing church online a little more manageable. For the next year and a half, this chalice lived on my bookshelf in the corner of my little office nook, with a tripod always set up, ready for my phone to turn it into our chalice cam. My hope in making the familiar, comfortable chalice visible was to offer that little bit of familiarity in the midst of that tumultuous time, to offer a symbol of home. It was a reminder that our community was still out there, that this spiritual home was still a place of refuge. And now, though we did consider the risks of traveling back and forth with a ceramic chalice, it travels with us each week to this space, offering again the comfort and familiarity of home in a time of change, reminding us that we can take risks and do hard things together, that this community will hold you as you try and fail and try again. Finding home is not just a nice dream, it is a spiritual necessity. It is the grounding that gives us the courage to live boldly, to take risks and try new things. It is also the soft landing when we need to take a break from living constantly on the edge. May this community be a spiritual home for all who seek it, a place of comfort and courage, a people of refuge and strength. May it be so.